gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity this evening to share our thoughts with you, the people of Ipoh, on this key question of arms spending in our country, and tied to it is this equally key question of justice for the family of Altantuya. Now, you've heard the facts presented about how much these sufferings have cost us. Tian Chua has asked questions in Parliament. He's a regular on this subject. And in answer to his last question, and this is the information that you have in the leaflet which has been given to all of you, the cost today of those submarines has reached $7.6 billion to the Malaysian taxpayer. Those two submarines, 7.6 billion. Now, there's also an uncertain amount about the maintenance for the next few years, but this is the amount so far. And don't forget, for a few months this year, we were not sure whether these two submarines would even die. But that has been sorted out. Apparently they can die. Now we know. But you know, there's another irony about this colossal expenditure. You will see in the information sheet that we have also purchased for these submarines, because these are what you call highly advanced, top in their class offensive submarines of a very sophisticated type. They are armed with very powerful missiles. So we have 40 units of Exocet SM-39 missiles and 30 units of Black Shark torpedoes. But do you know what the problem is? Today is July 2011. The two submarines are supposedly either parked in Lumut, not too far from here, or in Sabah, near Sipanga, but they have no missiles. You know why? The missiles will be delivered in 2013. So, you've got two very expensive toys out there. Now, just imagine, suddenly Indonesia or our friendly neighbor Singapore decides to go to war against Malaysia and decides that the first point of attack will be to take out our two most powerful new toys. Our two powerful new toys are sitting ducks. This is the nonsense that the politicians of our country are doing. And to add insult to injury, they take 114 million euros. At that time, times 550 million ringgit of our money, and put it into their own pockets as commission. That's what they keep saying in Parliament. It is not corruption, it is commission. That's what they keep saying. You know, you heard William just now tell us about Pinochet. Pinochet, the dictator in Chile, when they bought the submarine, he only asked for 2%. Our Malaysian politicians are grabbing 10% of the cost of the price. At that time it was 5 billion, they took 550 million ringgit into their own pockets. This was an unheard amount of money for an arms deal. This is what we're dealing with. Now, so this is why Swaram's effort is so important. Because in this country, we have got nowhere with the MACC. The investigation has stalled in Parliament. Every time we raise it, they say it's commission. The Public Accounts Committee, William sits on it. We have other MPs, Tony Ipoh and so on. Everything is stonewalled. So which is why Swara decided a year and a half ago to go to France. They engaged the lawyers and they're using the French judicial system to open up the case, to see whether we will get the answers that we need. What happened? Who paid this money? To whom was it paid? For what was it paid? Because it is our money and we have a right to know. Do you agree? Yes, sir. We have a right to know. But there is also another aspect to this entire case. One aspect is the corruption, meaning our money, our taxpayers' money goes into some corrupt politician's pocket. We don't know who yet, but one day we will find out. God willing, we will find out. Either there or here, when we change the government, we will find out. But the damage that has happened so far, the damage is not just about an expensive submarine that is possibly a sitting duck for our enemies, because there's no missiles yet. The damage is not about corruption. The damage is also about the damage that has been done to our criminal justice system. And who is that? Who are the components of the criminal justice system? The police, the judiciary, the AG's chambers. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think any of you will deny or any of us can question that the case of Anwar Ibrahim, the prosecution of Anwar Ibrahim in 1998 and the one that is ongoing now has probably single-handedly done the most damage to the credibility of our criminal justice system. Right from the role of the police, the AG's chambers, the judiciary and so on. But this case, the Scorpene stroke Altantuya case, has also done severe damage to our criminal justice system. And this is what I want to explain. This is what I want to take a few minutes to show. At one aspect, we lost $550 million of public money. But in another way, the tragedy of Altantuya's murder has also resulted in manipulation, distortions of our criminal justice system to ensure that those who are responsible for her murder are still protected today. In other words, the culture of impunity, the culture of protection for those murderers has been perpetrated by manipulating the system. And this is how it started. And this is the story I want to tell you tonight. And the tragedy of this lady's murder starts with an explosion of C4 in a place called Bukit Cheraka in Shah Alam on the night of October 19th or the 20th. You know, it's ironical. We are here talking about this case because by sheer coincidence that night, a taxi driver stopped not too far from the place to ease himself. The need to take a piss, and that is why we are able to talk about it today. He heard the explosion. If he hadn't heard that explosion, it might have, none of us might be talking about this today. He heard the explosion, police came later, they looked at the scene, and that's where it all started. Now, the key question is this. Fatih said it in his opening remarks. Clearly a murder was committed. The lady was shot, the body was then blown up. That itself raises questions. why was this body blown up with a large amount of C4? C4 that was enough to probably take apart a building to ensure that the body would be blown to bits. So there were bone fragments, but the body was blown to bits. It raises a question. What was the intention behind that? Why did you want to ensure there was no body that could be subjected to a post-mortem, perhaps to find out? Was she pregnant? This is a real question. Was she pregnant? If she was, who was it who made her pregnant? These are the issues. But the facts we know. These two gentlemen, Inspector Azila, Corporal Sibu, were the ones who took her there, shot her, and blew her up. But we all know, and this is the point Baldev made, these two gentlemen have no motive. They have no motive to kill her. They were instructed to kill her. There's no question about it. They were instructed to kill her. In other words, they were the gun. But the real question in any murder we must ask is, who pulled the trigger? And this is the irony of the whole case. You don't need a law degree to understand this. You don't need to go to university for 5 years and study law, or get a master's in law, get a PhD to understand this. All of us understand this. This is the question that has been asked in every coffee shop, in every discussion in Malaysia when they talk about this case. They have no motive. Who asked them, who ordered them to kill Altantuya? And the irony of it is, and this is, I come back to the criminal justice system, the people who are supposed to ask this question, the people who are supposed to ask the question and find the answer to the question, and the people who have been given the power under the law to ask and answer, refuse to ask the question. Who are those people? The police. The police don't want to ask the question. Or even if they ask the question, they don't want to show the answer they have written down to the question. The AG's chambers doesn't want to ask the question. And the judge, the gentleman at the end of the day, who is sitting up there, he also doesn't want to ask the question. And ironically, even the defense lawyers, the lawyers for the defense, also don't want to ask the question. Imagine, this is what was the circus, the tragedy, the tragic circus that was going on during the trial of Altantuya. Nobody dared to ask the question. And when something would come up that raises the question, everybody jumps up and says, no, we cannot ask the question. We cannot ask the question. So, for example, when Altantuya's friend, a lady called Burma, who was a witness, and she started talking in court on oath that she was shown a photograph that showed Altantuya together with Razak Baginda, together with our Prime Minister Najib Razak in a restaurant in Paris. Guess who objects immediately? The prosecution objects, the defense also objects. So the question cannot be asked. Ladies and gentlemen, and this is the other side of the story which we have to appreciate. The damage done to our systems. The manipulation of the entire criminal justice system. Right from the beginning. And I'm going to give you quite quickly some of the examples. The day it started, the day even Razak Baginda was charged. He got bail. It is almost unheard of in a murder case to get bail. Razak Baginda got bail. Okay, this happened on the 23rd of November. The judge who gave him bail was a judge called Kadir Musa, who is now resigned. But for some reason, and then the bail was extended on December 14, 2006. You know, in November this year is 5 years since the death of Altantuya. and we have not made much progress. In January, 5th January 2007, the case came up before a different judge, Justice K.N. Segar. Justice K.N. Segar had a different approach. He seemed to be quite independent. So he looked at the evidence that was there at that point in time, and he refused bail. He refused to extend the bail. And so Razak Baginda ended up in jail for the first time since his arrest. And the judge made this comment. He said, and I quote, he said, first he said there was no medical report because Razak Baginda earlier was given bail because apparently he was not well. He said there's no medical report, one. So I don't know how the earlier judge gave him bail. But he said there's enough grounds at this point in time to show that he was abetting this offense. Because Razak Baginda had created an affidavit and put it in court. So K.N. Segar revoked the bail. Guess what happened after that? Was K.N. Segar allowed to hear the case? No. Transferred. Exactly. And we know this, the legal fraternity knows this. Gani Patel, the current AG, and our talented tonight, together with the then Chief Justice Firoz, then got together to solve the problem of K.N. Segar. So, the entire Shah Alam court was reorganized, the cases shuffled around, and the case taken out of K.N. Segar's court and put back in the court of the judge who extended bail on December 14, Justice Zakir Yassin, who then went on to complete the case. They had another complication. There was a DPP, a senior DPP called DPP Salehuddin, who was the lead prosecutor, who at that time had formed the view that Razak Baginda was part of the murder. And he was insisting on pushing it all the way for Razak Baginda. And that was a problem for the powers to be. And we will come to that part soon. So finally, what happened? DPP Salehuddin is taken off the case. He resigns. Today is no more in the AG chambers. And a new DPP took over the case. To run the case according to a different script, a pre-written script, where Corporal Sirul and Inspector Azila will at the end of the day take the rap. But as we all know, they are merely the gun. Who pulled the trigger? Now we come to that question. Who is powerful enough in this country to tell them, do that and we will protect you, or we will somehow handle it? This is the question we need to ask. Now, I want to go back to the murder. We all know who Razak Baginda is. Razak Baginda is closely associated with the Prime Minister. He was a trusted advisor, the head of his think tank. That is without question the link between Razak Baginda and the current Prime Minister. The two persons who were convicted, Sirul and Azila, who were they? They were part of the bodyguard unit of the current Prime Minister. Then, of course, Defence Minister. That was another link.